Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the opening ceremony of Tadaima, a community virtual pilgrimage. Before we begin, it is my distinct honor and pleasure to introduce you to His Excellency Shinsuke J. Sugiyama, Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary of Japan to the United States of America.
Hello to all of you on the Tadaima virtual pilgrimage. I'm Shinsuke J. Sugiyama. In the 28th months, I have been Japan's envoy to the United States. I, together with my late wife Yoko, have experienced many wonderful things. One of the most moving and meaningful events we attended was the Heart Mountain pilgrimage in Wyoming. A pilgrimage is defined as a journey to a sacred place, and those few days we spent in Wyoming truly felt like that. The people I met, the things I learned, it was all quite powerful to my late wife Yoko and me. I wish every Japanese American, as well as every American and every Japanese, could experience a pilgrimage like that. It is really purifying. Since I took up my post here, I've been made a concerted effort to learn and appreciate Japanese American history. Within days of arriving, we went to Los Angeles to visit the Japanese American National Museum and saw the photo of President Reagan signing the Civil Liberties Act of 1988. All of these experiences gave me an impetus to further learn the history of Japanese American. By the way, I wrote a paper recently on this matter in Japanese law book to be published this autumn with focus on its legal aspects. In this process, I reconfirmed not only tireless and heroic efforts of our great leaders, including Secretary Mineta, but also the importance of Americans' courage and generosity in redressing and restating the wrongs of the past. I have so much to learn from history. The history of Japanese Americans shows us that wrongs, as painful as they will forever remain, can be righted. It is important to share and promote the understanding of Japanese American history because it is uplifting. All of you appreciate this. おかげさまで, the pandemic this year has prevented in-person pilgrimages to the internment sites, but Tadaima is a way for all of us to still be on the journey together. I hope that many people will be part of this journey and deepen their understanding of Japanese American history. So in concluding, I welcome you to the opening of the Tadaima virtual pilgrimage, and I extend my warmest best wishes to you all.
We appreciate His Excellency's extraordinary support of the Japanese American community and this historical narrative. We thank His Excellency Ambassador Sugiyama for taking the time to share this message with us.
Hello, I'm David Ono.
And I'm Tamlin Tomita. Welcome to Tadaima, a community virtual pilgrimage in a time of social distancing. We are here at the Japanese American National Museum to introduce you to a summer-long celebration. Tadaima is a collaborative effort to bring together the Nikkei community so we can honor our history, engage in cultural activities, and find connection.
But before we get to that, it is worth mentioning the protests that we have all been witnessing or participating in recent weeks. Millions of people across the country are working hard to dismantle 400 years of systemic racial trauma and murder. The Black Lives Matter movement is leading a radical change in policing, community investment, and anti-racism education. Emotionally, it's a lot to process. We are grieving for our Black sisters and brothers while confronting biases in our institutions and in ourselves. However, I think most of us are cautiously optimistic. What makes these reform efforts unique is that they are set against the backdrop of a global pandemic. And as you all know, the pandemic of the novel coronavirus has dramatically changed the way that we live our lives daily, interact with one another, and this means staying home whenever possible, taking precautions when in public, and avoiding crowds. Unfortunately, this also means canceling events, including annual pilgrimages to the World War II incarceration sites.
We want to thank you for virtually joining us today as we commemorate the struggles of the Japanese American community and its resilience during a dark period in our nation's history.
In February 1942, President Roosevelt signed Executive Order 9066. This authorized the U.S. Army to exclude all persons of Japanese ancestry from the West Coast. Allowed to bring only what they could carry, people were forced to vacate their homes and abandon their lives as they were removed to some of the most desolate places in the country. In total, over 120,000 Americans of Japanese ancestry were imprisoned without due process of law. Japanese Americans weren't the only ones. Thousands of Japanese Canadians and Japanese Australians were incarcerated in their respective countries, and Japanese Mexicans were ordered to leave their homes on the Pacific coast. Nikkei civilians from a dozen Latin American countries were even deported to the United States and held in camps run by the Immigration and Naturalization Service. The system of confinement facilities in the U.S. was vast and more complicated than most people realize. For this virtual pilgrimage, we hope to expand the traditional narrative. Scholars, artists, educators, and representatives from many different contingents of the community have come together to provide a fuller understanding of Japanese American history.
Rather than 10 separate pilgrimages for each of the camps, Tadaima will combine many of the unique traditions from each site, along with new content that is spread across 9 themed weeks. The virtual pilgrimage will feature pre-recorded and live-streamed content, as well as opportunities to engage with presenters. There will be online exhibits, workshops, performances, lectures, film screenings, and more. So we can all learn, share stories, and build community from the safety of our homes. As an online event, Tadaima poses a unique opportunity to connect not only the Japanese American community, but the global Nikkei community. We hope that these programs can help people find connection in spite of our isolation. Tadaima means I'm home in Japanese. It is our way of acknowledging the unusual circumstances we all find ourselves in as we gather together separately. Tadaima is also a reminder that home is wherever we find support and feel most comfortable.
These are unprecedented times that we find ourselves in, when embracing a loved one can put them at risk, when disease is driving the recovery of the natural world, when a crisis can catalyze positive change. Understandably, many of us are left feeling disoriented. Our uncertainty for the future is compounded by the extraordinary political era that we live in. Division is rife, and government response to a health issue has become a controversy. We also live in an era of relentless misinformation, which makes us doubt our own perception of reality. All nations are fighting a global crisis that should unite us, yet it's easy to feel disconnected from the rest of the world. So, let's take this time to breathe and to reflect on our hopes and values. Despite the challenges that we are facing, this is our chance to re-engage with ourselves and to think about who we want to be when this is over.
Let us also say thank you to the helpers, people who are risking their lives to fight against this virus, such as scientists, medical professionals, sanitation workers, and public safety officials. People who provide us with food and necessities, such as groceries, deliveries, factories, and farm workers. People who keep our society functioning, such as the trade specialists who maintain our utilities, the journalists who keep us informed, and the educators and caregivers who provide structure for our children. This pandemic has reminded us of who our greatest assets are. However, it has also magnified our systemic flaws. So let us remember the workers who cannot afford to stay home, and the communities who do not have access to food and healthcare. And let us do what we can to protect those who are most at risk for COVID-19, the elderly, the homeless, the incarcerated, and people with disabilities and underlying conditions. During World War II, allies of the Japanese American community reached out to assist families or provide comfort in their time of need. As the camps closed and Japanese Americans picked up their pieces of their lives, they helped each other find jobs, housing, and services. If ever we need a source of inspiration, let us remember our ancestors who set the example over 75 years ago.
We must also remember that reaching out to our neighbors means to ask for help as much as it means to offer it. There is a stigma that needing assistance is a sign of weakness or failure, particularly when it comes to mental health. But that's the purpose of a community, to lift each other up so we can all hope for a brighter tomorrow. It's okay to feel anxious and frustrated and listless, and it's okay to grieve. People have lost their loved ones, their sources of income, their health insurance, their social interactions, and their sense of stability. So for the next few moments, we'd like to honor those losses and all the people who could not be with us today.
Tadaima, the Japanese word to announce one's return home, a return to where one belongs. The World War II Japanese-American incarceration experience was a sudden shattering of that sense of home, of belonging, a forced removal from one's home to many different types of confinement sites. Post-war pilgrimages to those sites of dislocation are journeys of remembrance and a way to reclaim a sense of belonging and a sense of home. Today, we begin the 2020 virtual pilgrimage, Tadaima, a journey to remember that which excluded on the basis of race or religion, and the solidarity necessary to regain a sense of belonging. 将来しぐせ願を不従する功徳は We dedicate the merits of reciting the Shigusegan by honoring and recalling the names of James Hatsuaki Wakasa, April 1943, 65-year-old Japanese cook, shot by military police sentry whilst taking a walk parallel to the fence at the WRA camp in Topaz, Utah. Together we recall with him and we honor Ahmaud Arbery, February 2020, 25-year-old unarmed black man shot by vigilantes in a pickup truck while jogging in his neighborhood in Glynn County, Georgia. We recall and honor Tatsuo Ryusei Inoue, December 1943, a 33-year-old Japanese confined in a prison within a prison, enduring a hunger strike within the Tula Lake stockade to protest food shortages and the brutal treatment of community leaders in the Tula Lake concentration camp, California. Together with him, we recall and honor Ronald Umanya, March 2020, 30-year-old immigrant from El Salvador who endured a hunger strike within the ICE detention facilities in Hudson County, New Jersey, demanding toilet paper and soap for immigrant detainees to protect themselves from the COVID-19 virus. We recall and honor Hirota Isomura, July 1942, 59-year-old fisherman forcibly removed from his home in San Pedro, California, shot by U.S. Army Guard, accused of trying to escape the U.S. Army camp, Lordsburg, New Mexico, despite being physically disabled and barely able to walk. We remember him together, and we recall and honor Breonna Taylor, March 2020, 23-year-old African-American emergency medical technician killed in her own bed at her Louisville, Kentucky apartment by police officers who had stormed in without knocking or identifying themselves, striking her with at least 8 shots. We recall and honor Jungo Kino, December 1941, a 65-year-old Japanese garage mechanic shot in Stockton, California, due to rising anti-Japanese vigilantism after the Pearl Harbor attack. We remember him together with our honoring and recalling of Boy Chung, March 2020, a Burmese-American father attacked and stabbed in a Sam's Club in Midland, Texas, by a man claiming that Chinese-looking people were spreading the COVID-19 virus. We finally recall and honor Kanesaburo Oshima, May 1942, 58-year-old Japanese store owner shot by guards in the back of the neck at the fence at the Fort Sill internment camp in Oklahoma, leaving behind his wife and 11 children in Kona, Hawaii. We recall him together with George Floyd, May 2020, an unarmed 46-year-old Black man and father of 5 children, killed by a knee of a police officer on his neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. His last words, "Mama, please," and I can't breathe. 願わくはこの功徳をもってあまねく一切に及ぼし、我々と主上と皆共に仏道を上善こと。 We have recalled and honored the names of those who have come before us. May they, together with us and all sentient beings, achieve liberation together. Tadaima. As we undertake this pilgrimage, let us discover ourselves and our interlinked histories with many communities. Tadaima. As we undertake this pilgrimage, let us find refuge, come home together.
Concentration constellation. In this earthly configuration, we have not points of light, but prominent barbs of dark. Begin between the golden state's highest and lowest elevations and name that location Manzanar. Rattlesnake a line southward to the zone of Arizona, to the home of natives on the reservation, and call those Gila, Poston. Then just take your time winding your way across the southwest expanse, the Lone Star State of Texas, gathering up a mess of blues as you meander around the banks of the humid Mississippi. Yes, just make yourself at home in the swamps of Arkansas, for this is Roar and Jerome. By now, you weary of the way. It's a big country, you say. It's a big history, hardly halfway through, with Amachi looming in the Colorado desert, Heart Mountain high in wide Wyoming, Minidoka on the moon of Idaho, then down to Utah's jewel of topaz before finding yourself at Northern California's frozen shore of Tule Lake. Now regard what sort of shape this constellation takes. It sits there like a jagged scar, massive on the massive landscape. It lies there like the rusted wire of a twisted and remembered fence.
After the end of World War II, survivors of the incarceration often referred to something called camp, but were reluctant to describe exactly what it was. Their children were coming of age in the 1960s. They became deeply influenced by the civil rights and anti-war movements that highlighted the decade. Then in 1969, a group of students from Los Angeles set out to find answers. Their journey to the former Manzanar concentration camp became the first of many pilgrimages and kindled a new wave of activism. The Japanese American community organized to demand recognition and redress from the US government until finally, in 1981, President Carter opened a congressional investigation into the events of World War II. It is concluded that the Nikkei removal and incarceration was not the result of national security, but of race prejudice, war hysteria, and failure of political leadership. In 1988, President Reagan signed the Civil Liberties Act, offering an official apology and reparations to living survivors of the Japanese American incarceration. Today, the pilgrimage lives on as Japanese Americans gather together to share stories and to heal decades of intergenerational trauma. But even as we remember the past, we keep the future in mind. As new generations of Japanese Americans work to keep this history alive, they continue the tradition of advocacy, serving as allies in new civil rights issues, and reminding the country of what must never happen again to any group.
Pilgrimage means experiencing the power of place, creating community, and reclaiming history.
Pilgrimage is learning something that wasn't in my history books.
Pilgrimage means Tadaima, I'm home. It's all of the conversations that we never got to have with our grandparents. To me, pilgrimage means Okaeri nasai. It's our ancestors saying, welcome home.
My family was incarcerated in Arkansas and Arizona, but no one ever really talked about it. So for me, pilgrimage means telling our elders that their voices matter and we want to hear their stories.
I was born in Heart Mountain in 1944, so the pilgrimage for me was an opportunity to come full circle. It was painful and emotional at times, but fortunately I was there with my family for support, and that made all the difference in the world.
Getting to be there with her and watching her have her own embodied experience going back to this place that is such a site of trauma, while it was super difficult, was I think it was in a way healing for her, and that was healing for me.
We stood together in that field and thought about our heritage and my mom and what her life meant, and it really felt like I was more whole than I'd been before.
Unfortunately, in our world today, a lot of other people of color, particularly, are experiencing the same kinds of abuse and mistreatment that we experienced during World War II. And so it is incumbent on us to speak up, to participate in demonstrations or whatever we have to do to tell the public of today, even though 78 years has passed, that this is not right.
America needs to know the history of the internment camps, for we did not fail our country. Our country failed us, and it should never happen again.
I go on pilgrimages to mourn. I mourn those good, innocent people who died behind barbed wire due to natural causes, cancer, stroke, diabetes. I go also to mourn for those people who died behind barbed wire due to unnatural causes, who died of soul-crushing despair, of the burning fever of angst stifled, and of suffocation by the unbearable weight of oppression. I go to mourn the death of the ideals of a land of democracy, the rule of law, a justice system that rests on the pillar of due process, and the pledge to liberty and justice for all. I go on pilgrimages to remember the struggles since, to restore those noble ideals. I go on pilgrimages to hope that this young generation of Americans will continue the work, because there is much still to be done to make those ideals shine strong and true and righteous. I go on pilgrimages to mourn and remember and hope.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kimiko Mar, and I'm the co-founder of Japanese American Memorial Pilgrimages.
And my name is Hanko Wakatsuki. I'm the Chief of Interpretation and Education at Minidoka National Historic Site.
Hanako and I are the co-chairs of Tadaima, a community virtual pilgrimage. We came up with this idea a few months ago after we learned that all of the pilgrimages to the Japanese American confinement sites had been canceled due to COVID-19.
The annual pilgrimages mean a lot to us. Kimiko and I both grew outside of the Japanese American community, so pilgrimages are important to explore our identities and find a sense of belonging. These pilgrimages mean the world to me personally because they fill my emotional bucket as they feel like a family reunion, and I look forward to them every year.
The thought of a year without a pilgrimage was unimaginable to me. So we decided to organize this virtual pilgrimage, not only to make sure that there was a pilgrimage in some capacity this year, but to allow those who were unable to attend in the past to be able to participate virtually. To us, our elders are a precious resource for the younger generations to learn from, so we couldn't afford to wait another year to have a pilgrimage.
Initially, we had considered a 10-day program that focused on the War Relocation Authority camps. But then we thought that this would be the perfect opportunity to create our ideal pilgrimage. We wanted to explore the Japanese American experience from immigration to today, and to look at the broader Nikkei incarceration around the world.
Now it's a 9-week program. It seems like a lot, but we've tried to plan it so there's something of interest for everyone. You can find scheduling information online at the Japanese American Memorial Pilgrimages website.
Each of the 9 weeks focuses on a different time period in Japanese American history, while each day of the week features a different theme.
Each week will start with Sunday, also known as Community Sunday, where we'll have elder panels and a Sunday supper activity.
Next, we have Museum Mondays, which will focus on artifacts. Every Mondays will feature the 50 Objects, 50 Stories project and Curator's Corner, where you'll have the chance to see items from museum collections across the world. And Mondays will also provide a space to showcase the community archives where people at home can share family objects.
Tender Garden Tuesdays are for, you guessed it, gardening and agriculture. We'll feature farmers, archaeologists, and a vegetation ecologist from Minidoka National Historic Site.
For Wisdom Wednesdays, we'll host education sessions based on the themes of that particular week. Throwback Thursdays will focus on Japanese Americans genealogy, where folks will have the opportunity to look up their family history in genealogy sessions. A podcast featuring history will be available as well.
Fine Arts Fridays are an opportunity to showcase both historic and contemporary artists in the community. For the readers out there, we will also be hosting a weekly book club.
And finally, Socially Distant Saturdays will feature the Nikkei Block Party, so we can all enjoy some live concert and performances.
What's really exciting about this program is that viewers can learn about new research and preservation efforts they might not have known about. But most importantly, the community will have a unified space to continue our healing process.
We only had about 2 months to plan this event, which is not very long at all. So we'd like to give a special shout out to our partners for all they've contributed, even when under restraints of time, a pandemic, and protest. They've shown us what the Nikkei community and our allies are capable of when we come together.
Hanako and I are so grateful to share this moment with all of you. Without further ado, we hope you have a safe and happy summer.
Rhetoric regarding the origins of coronavirus has incited violent hate crimes against Asian Americans. This widespread racism is nothing new. Years ago, our fellow Americans called us enemy. They wrote laws to obstruct our hard-earned achievements. They banned our relatives from entering the country. They imprisoned us. They tried to deport us. They even tried to strip us of our citizenship. Yet, we are here. We don't let the haters get us down. Our story is an American story. What makes us Japanese does not divide us from others. Rather, we enrich the collective American identity. Japanese immigrants were pioneers of the West. They started new lives in an unfamiliar land, building railroads and businesses, They brought sophisticated farming techniques that transformed American agriculture. And during the war, Japanese Americans showed true courage through sacrifice and resistance. Thousands of brave young men and women served in the military, while resolute resistors protested the injustice of incarceration and conscription. In the years following, Japanese Americans actively engaged to change American policy to ensure that the lessons of history would be learned and not repeated. This is the legacy we have, which we act upon to build our American future. To all the young people watching, take pride in who you are and where you come from. Be an active participant in the world. In the face of adversity, actively engage to make it better. The strength of the Nikkei community, our community, has your back. And remember that there is no singular Nikkei identity. Some of us are the children of immigrants. Some are fifth-generation Americans. Some are bilingual. A few are multilingual. And most know just English. Some of us lost our family heirloom during the war, but we never lost the spirit of our heritage. Even as an ethnic group, we come in many different creeds and colors and nationalities. When we are together, we are one. We are a vibrant human family.
Why should you worry so?
That concludes our opening ceremony. In just a few minutes, we will begin a screening of two documentary films, Manzanar by Robert Nakamura and Pilgrimage by Robert's son Tad Nakamura.
But first, we would like to thank all of you for joining us, and we hope that you will enjoy all the activities and performances that will be available this summer. The Pilgrimage Committee, in cooperation with the National Park Service, has worked hard to make a seemingly impossible idea become a momentous occasion in just a matter of weeks. So thank you to our sponsors, our partners, and all of those who have provided content for making this pilgrimage a reality. If you need assistance or would like to learn more about the upcoming programs, please go online to the Japanese American Memorial Pilgrimage website for information.
Now, we hope that all of you watching at home are safe and healthy, regardless of where you come from or your ties to this history. We look forward to having you with us again.
Oh, give me land, lots of land under starry skies above. Don't fence me in. Let me ride through the wide open country that I love. Don't fence me in. Let me be by myself in the evening breeze. Listen to the murmur of the cottonwood trees. Send me off forever and I ask you please. Don't fence me in. Turn me loose, let me straddle my own saddle underneath the western skies. On my cayuse, let me wander, see the mountains rise. I want to ride to the ridge where the west commences. gaze at the moon until I lose my senses. Can't look at hobbles and I can't stand fences. Don't fence me in. Don't fence me in.
Don't fence me in.